In this very important video, I'm going to talk about what is actually holding you back from completing the creation process of making and launching your video game. And you'd be very surprised because it's actually a lot of things that aren't really that technical. They're just decisions that you have to pay a lot of vigilance to. And once you really recognize that, hey, like you make a prototype, you add content, you polish things, and then you launch the game, those are like the main phases that you need to work on, right? But here's the crazy part. Recently, I've been working with a bunch of developers and I've been learning a lot, but more importantly, the biggest problem is just finding a way to finish the actual game development process. And it's difficult because, you kind of start with like a very fresh start and you're like, I'm super excited, I'm motivated, I can't wait to put all my ideas into this game. You make a demo out of it. And then suddenly you reach this point where things are like really slow and you're not making that much progress. And it's really disheartening, one would say. But in reality, it really doesn't matter how far you are in the project. It's actually these decisions that you have to pay attention to because how you assess these problems that I'm about to talk about really determines if you're able to launch your game or not. All right. So how do you actually overcome the main problems and that are preventing you from finishing your game? These are the things that we need to discuss. Number one, there's a high probability you get excited about the fact that you're making your game and you get to put your characters, you get to put these crazy environments, music, all of these content pieces that, yes, they are important. Your game should be beautiful no matter what. But your prototype should prioritize its mechanical framework first. And what that means is you really want to make sure that you have the ability to have an object, a player, a character, something playable within your game that has the ability to perform all of the functions that you want to do. So let's say you're making Super Mario, for example, right? Before you even make the model and paint the textures and like make Mario like the character, right? You want to have an object that can jump. You want to have an object that can do wall jumps. You want to do it. You want to have an object that can jump on other objects and destroy them by doing so. Once you formulate that core object, right? Like the main thing that it can do, then the decoration can come in later, and that's where you can start streamlining your process of making content for the game. So if you're ever stuck making content for a game and you recognize, wait a minute, this probably won't make it at the final like product, right? Or maybe like I have to cut content, or maybe I'm doing too much. I'm not really focused on the programming or the framework, or again the main objects you need in order to make something work. Ask yourself this following question: can your game flex your art? And what I mean by flex is simply saying, hey, like I said, you have this object that behaves in every single way that the player should play the game with, right? Again, do you have jumping? Do you have hitting? Do you have guarding? Do you have wall jumps? Do you have the ability to take damage? Think about every single system that is scalable. And you really want to optimize it. You really want to make sure that it's pretty much set. Once this happens, then you got to ask yourself, okay, if my game can flex the object, the scalar object that I just made, then yeah, let's go ahead and make content, because now all you got to do is worry about making cool characters, the colors, just making sure that things look presentable. And then once you implement that in your game, well, guess what? Now you're at this content creation process where all you're doing is just adding content to finish making your game or just making it more lively. Imagine you added 20 billion characters, right? And they're all unique, they all have their cool animations and everything. And you realize fundamentally that the scalar object you're working on just doesn't work. Oh no, I got to go back and fix that. But if I fix that, oh wait, what about that one animation that I made to like pick up items and we just realized we don't need it? Oh, I got to cut that? Dang, but I made 20 billion pickup animations with these characters. Do I have to get rid of that? You can avoid doing that by simply finishing the object first and then dropping all of the content that you want to add. Now, let's say, hey, can your game actually flex the content that you're preparing? If the answer is no, then you should probably not be making content. You should probably focus on, again, programming, framework, making sure that the objects do what your game is asking you to do. There is an exception to this, and that really genuinely comes down to if you have a team and if you have a dedicated artist that can take care of, again, whether it's the character designs, the actual like implementation of textures, environment, background. If you have a composer, you can make music. These are things that you can kind of delegate in the meantime. But I would still be very careful with that, because you really want to make sure that the content that is being made for your game actually has proof of concept that it works. Meaning, if you're going to say, oh, let's make this really cool character and he's going to do all these cool things, but you haven't even made a jump button, you probably shouldn't be making characters in the first place. Again, focus on the mechanical part of your game first. Watch the video that I made called polishing kills your game, because that kind of goes into depth to why you should focus on making games ugly, and more importantly, why the ugliness helps you speedrun the game development process. All right. Now, the second part, or the second problem that I see that's very common, is you need to really double down on your habits, routines, and time management. And the reason why, it's not because, oh, you got to be like this guru, or you got to be like this self-help person, min-max your life. It's really not about that. It's just the beauty of a routine allows you to just do something, again, routinely or in a habit. Meaning, if I told you, hey, pick up this book and read, but you typically don't read, suddenly it's going to be a big resistance for you to pick up the actual book, open the page, read the letters, and then say, okay, the sentence one, sentence two, let me take a summary, let me take notes, this and that. If you're not used to having those actions or those activities that come natural to you, the problem is, again, there's resistance to even starting that activity. But let's say you are an avid reader. Let's say you read every single day, or maybe once a week, or you have a cadence where you sit down and you say, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and read." Now, if I told you, "Hey, I got this cool book. You should check out this book, this and that." Now it's not the resistance of you trying to pick up the book and read it. It's just a matter of, oh, well, let me streamline it into my routine. Instead of this one book I'm going to read, I'm going to read this other book this next day. It's not about the fight of picking it up. It's now just, again, integrating the new content piece in this case. Being said, all I'm trying to say is that you have the ability to just reprogram yourself to take in routines and habits and actions that you can take right now that'll help you work on game development. So imagine you consistently wake up early in the morning, you consistently go to bed at a specific time, you consistently meal prep, you consistently open up your game engine and you write at least one line of code within the first 20 minutes, you consistently check your tasks, right? All of these things will build habits for you to continue just sitting down and recognizing, wait a minute, this becomes natural to me. This becomes my kind of like secondary state of what I do. I wake up and I just automatically do these things. And that's a very powerful thing to do, because if you create the correct habits, then you're basically going to propel yourself into doing the tasks and activities that your game is asking you to finish. So this is something that I genuinely believe is extremely powerful, and you should really, really, really consider fixing habits that don't serve you, like getting rid of the bad habits, but more importantly, implementing new routes of what can I do today to make more progress in my game. Do I need more programming? Do I need more testing? Maybe I need to do more content. Have I focused on that? These are the decisions you have to make to actually start making more progress, right? The third part, and this is this is going to be a little funny here, because a lot of developers rely on motivation. And listen, I get it, right? It's nice to feel that spark in your stomach and you're like, you know what? I'm going to make one of the greatest games of all time. I have this crazy idea. It's going to be super good. You hop on the game engine, you make a lot of progress. And again, you hit this slump, right? Things get boring. Things get slow. Things don't really feel as progressive as you were having. It's not as progressive as it was at the start. And so now you're like, oh, man, I wish I was motivated to work. And this is the problem, okay? The problem is, if you're relying on a source or a fuel or something that is inconsistent, something that is, like you don't really control, it's just like based off of this emotion, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? So literally, like this little image, it's kind of funny, but like imagine a car that runs on rain. One, that'd be kind of crazy, right? But two, it's like the car will not move until it rains. But how do we know when it rains? Can we do something to manipulate the weather so that rain comes in early? Can we get a lot of rain? There's not really an answer to that. And so if you're kind of just like tying yourself up to motivation, then you're in the scenario where you're only going to make progress when you have very specific and external conditions that push you to do that. And here's the problem: we're human, right? And I hate to tell you this, but like human nature can be very weird in the sense that there's more times we're dismotivated than motivated. There's more times where we're likely to, be lazy than like be proactive and such. So we really have to be keen on developing a habit that allows you to stray away from motivation. And even though this is an obvious example, right? Let's say, hey, what if a car ran on fuel, right? Which, go outside, look out the window. That's literally how it works, right? The idea that I'm trying to get to is like, hey, you can control how much fuel you have. You know where it comes from. It's not randomized. It's not something that you have to like depend on, right? And so, yeah, these are like funny little parallels. But the idea that I'm trying to get to you is that if you're constantly always waiting for that spark to like push yourself to open the game engine, start coding, start making all these cool pieces of content, you kind of have the wrong mindset, right? it's interesting because you can have this like really cool character design, and you have these cool weapons, and you have this really cool concept, and that in itself is a motivation. It's a source that lets you say, yeah, let me move forward with this project. Like I want to see how it ends, right? The problem is once you start depending on that like emotion, you really need to try to find a way to compartmentalize your mindset to say, hey, you know what? I have this idea. I want to see it all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and prepare a basic plan where it's like I'm going to do these pieces of content, these tasks, and I'm going to try to make it launch no matter what. Whether I like it, whether I dislike it, whether it's a good game, whether it's a bad game, I want to see it all the way through. And by employing that mindset, guess what? You're going to finish the game. And so suddenly you start building the habit where you don't really care about how you feel that day. You don't feel that motivation. You don't need it. And suddenly you're doing your tasks the way that you're supposed to. All right. Now, this one's a funny one. Okay. So, number 4, overscoping. And the reason why I think this is such a funny little piece is because you will always overscope when you iterate during your development process, right? You're gonna try this new idea or like this new concept as you know, like maybe you're programming something and you find like this bug and then you fix the bug, but now it has like the second side effect, and you're like, that's pretty cool. I didn't know I can like moon jump that. I want to go ahead and do that. You know, it's always something that you add, right? What I really want to illustrate to you is that for anything that you add, for any other feature, activity, event, trigger, anything that you add that is not respecting the endpoint of your game. An endpoint is basically, hey, I'm going to launch my game. This is the final product. That final product represents what an endpoint is, which is like, these are all the tasks I need to do in order to make sure that, hey, this is what the game is going to look like when I get out there. Therefore, let me go ahead and like work on that. If you know that you're writing a game that has, let's like super crazy example, let's say you're making a shooter, right? And you never work on logic for shooting, ammo, aiming, third person controllers, third person cameras. If you don't have any of that, then you're already over scoping because you're not doing the tasks that actually align with your goal. And so the crazy part that I really want to paint to you is that it could be something so micro, it could be something so minuscule, like, oh, I have this ammo system for my shooting game, but I'm gonna go ahead and add this little like effect where like if you ran out of ammo, uh, your character dances. Is that really is that really like important, right? The whole point is that little decision of you trying to like implement something that doesn't respect what the end product would look like. That can cost you 2 months. That could cost you a whole year. This is exactly what overscoping is: the ability to disrespect your endpoint. The more you disrespect that, the more work you're just gonna have to do, and then things become more. Uh, it becomes a multiplicity of work that you have to do. It's just more work that you end up doing. And the crazy part is you really don't know if that actually is going to end up at your final game or not, right? Like maybe you end up cutting content because you added things that you didn't need. So you got to be very careful with making sure that you align with your end goal. And then here's the thing, right? How do I know what my end point is, right? Like what exactly is that? And this is where I have to suggest that you need to write a roadmap for your game. Okay. I've had many talks and I've been very extensive about this topic in particular because GDDs are game design documents, right? They're basically the containers of all the ideas you have, and you can use them to organize a way to, build your game world. The roadmap is basically going to be a sequential, step-by-step list of what you need in your game, like all the features, all the pieces of content, every single little bit of it in order to actually launch it, right? So then the question is, wait a minute, okay, cool. Makes sense, right? But like, how do I know what goes into a roadmap? How do I actually know what pieces of content I need, what type of features I need, what are my dependencies, what are the obstacles I should expect when I'm building my game? Like, how do I actually know that, right? And so I made this little video called Make Game Dev Baby Easy, or Baby Steps for Game Devs. Basically, it's the breakdown of how you would go around about the, road mapping, right? And it basically comes down to always break down your game in 3 core actions and then try to ask yourself, okay, there's a jump button, for example, right? What systems do I need that will support the jump button, right? Is that a controller? Do I need controller rebinds? Do I need platforming? Do I need backgrounds? Do I need a level? Do I need an obstacle where I can jump over? Do I need a character, a player? Like these are the things that you want to like have a list of. And in a weird way, you want to start having like a list of dependencies. Okay, well, if I have a player, that means I probably need animations. I probably need these particle effects. I probably need a hit animation. Like there's a lot to it. Okay. And I really do think that this video does not do justice of how complex writing a roadmap is. Being said, sorry to self advertise here, but please join my newsletter because I've been talking to a lot of developers and I've been resolving a lot of their problems with the roadmap as a whole. And soon I want to launch this very important talk about the roadmap as a whole. It might be a course, it might be just like a very long talk that you exclusively get behind the letter. Just go ahead and sign up for that if that's something that you're interested in. But long story short, what I just really want to point out is hey, there's going to be a list of things you need to do to make your game anyway. If you can figure that out in the pre-production phase and really recognize, wait a minute, I know I'm going to expect these problems. I know I'm going to expect these obstacles. So if I can design ways to facilitate my production so that I can go ahead and beat these problems as I go, then suddenly game dev becomes super easy. And so this is why, and I've used roadmaps. I've seen my clients and my other developers and just a bunch of people use roadmaps before. And I genuinely think it's not only a hack, but it just truly gets you through the game making process way faster. But also, it just makes you know where you're going to go. Because the other problem is when you're making a game, and if you don't know where you're going, like, what are you doing? It's called roadmap because it's putting you on a road. Imagine if I said, hey, I want you to drive to, let's say you're in the United States, right? I'm like, hey, drive to Canada. Okay, you probably have to go north, right? But what does that mean, right? Do you take one large highway? Do you take this like international road? Do you go through the countryside? Like, there's so many ways to take that path, but you probably want the shortest path. You probably want the most efficient path. You probably want a path that allows you to actually get to where you want in the most effective way possible without suffering, right? That's kind of like the whole point of like making games efficiently. So really, really, really consider writing a roadmap. I really recommend you checking out this video in particular for more information. Again, sign up for the newsletter. But being said, the fifth part that I find very interesting, and this is kind of like, this makes sense if you are not in the position where, like game dev comes natural to you, right? Maybe you're a newbie, maybe you're trying to learn a lot, maybe you're stuck in tutorial hell, as they call it. It's like you're always like watching videos, always trying to learn, and that's fine. There's a lot of merit behind that. But the main question I want you to ask when you're facing any technical question is, how much content do you actually need to know about this particular subject? Okay. And so I have a controversial opinion, and this is something I've been very vocal about with a lot of developers here, right? So let's say you are a noob. You are early in your career. You're just starting game dev, this and that. Okay, I'll give it to you. I want you to go ahead and learn the basics of game dev. And what that means is, movement, controllers, cameras, things that are very common that you see everywhere in pretty much every single game. Until you have a basis or a backbone where you're like, you know what, I think I know how to, mess around with my own camera, mess around with my own player systems. I think I can do it. Okay. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is just skip the foundations. Okay. And that's controversial because ideally, the stronger your foundation is as a developer, the better, because now you have the ability to tackle all types of, you know, various types of topics and problems and issues. And it's very important to have foundations. But I'm telling you to skip it because I want you to work on the part that you need at the moment. Let's say you're working on a platformer and you're trying to put a run button, right? On paper, that sounds easy, but let's say you've never made a run button before. Okay, make a run button. And you're going to quickly hit your head on the wall and you're going to realize, wait a minute, I don't know how to do a run button. I don't know how to do this. Maybe I can start off with this step, but I have this bug. Where do I go from here? When you get stuck, that's when you should go ahead and open up resources and tutorials and see what you need to do to actually make this happen. And the reason why I say this is because game dev is huge. Like, game dev is huge, guys. Like, game dev has a bunch of things going on. There's characters, animations, programming, stats, folder structures, color palettes, marketing, time limits. There's so much in game dev that if you wanted to learn literally everything about it, you would take multiple years. And here's the crazy part: you're always going to learn no matter what. So my method is kind of like more brute force. It's like get into the problem and then solve the problem inside out. And it may not sound like the most effective way possible, but I've been seeing crazy results from it. Personally, that's how I've made my games. That's how I became a developer at the end of the day. And you'll quickly figure out truly how little you need to know to actually build the game. I would argue that everything that you program, that you write, that you make, that you build is just a series of inputs that lead to a specific output. And if you have a way to design that in a way that's like really fun and engaging, you have a video game. That's literally all it is. Now, what type of game, what type of content, what type of genre, what type of goal you have, that's all different, right? That depends on the actual, game you're making, right? But the idea is like, get in the problem as quickly as possible so that you fight your way out through it. And guess what? The more problems you fight, the more problems you face, the more problems you solve, the more experience you get. And then crazily, you start running into less problems when you're doing the tasks that you're supposed to do commonly. So remember that. Just always try to like find the resources that you need when you need it. All right. Now, I can't finish my game because I can't focus. Okay. This is step number 6. This is common. This is really common. But I never would place my finger on the fact and say, oh, it's the focus that's the problem. It's like focus isn't, I firmly believe that focus isn't a skill that you build. It's actually just trying to get rid of all the distractions that show up as you build your game. And so what's really crazy is this kind of goes back into the overscope talk that we just talked about. If you do something that does not support the end goal, the end point, the end product of your game, you're going to spend so much extra time doing something that just doesn't matter. And so, yeah, in the context of making a game, you want to make sure you have the right tasks, that you're writing the right features, you're programming the right things, you're adding the right content, of course. But take a step back from game development. You're a person, you're a developer, you have a lot of things going for you. You have a mind that you have to protect, right? You don't want to doom scroll. You don't want to, create bad habits where you're really distracted. You really don't want to be in the position where you're just looking left and right every 5 seconds trying to figure out what to do when you have the ability to cut your distractions and then sit with the problem at hand. That's how you solve the problem of like focusing and, making sure that you can like actually focus, getting rid of the distractions. Again, going back to overscoping, going back to powerful habits, make sure that any habit you develop is something that allows you to get rid of distractions. All right. Now, here are the common distractions that I've seen in developers that I think is extremely important to talk about. All right. Doom scrolling happens. Okay. We're on social media. We have friends. We want to stay connected. We want to be online. We want to see all the cool news. There's a lot of things to, talk about when it comes to social media. Has it been the greatest thing for society? Maybe yes, no. I don't know how to answer that, but I can tell you that doom scrolling is something that drains your time, kind of drains your energy. You really don't need it at the end of the day. All right. So try to limit your phone, try to limit the use of social media. You don't need this. All right. The next thing is non-episodic content consumption. That's also kind of, it falls in the same category as like doom scrolling, where basically, let's say, and maybe you're guilty of this, and I apologize, but also let me get to my point. You're on YouTube, right? And let's say you're on YouTube, you're watching a video, and you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to watch this video. Then you click here, then you click there, and before you know it, you're watching 7 YouTube videos that are like half an hour long. You just spent like 4 hours watching YouTube videos for what, right? Now, if it's content that helps you, or if it's a resource that you want to listen to, sure, whatever, like you do that. But I was having this conversation with a friend the other day where it's like, hey, like, imagine replacing social media and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, all these things with like anime. And that sounds weird. It's like that's still content you're consuming. But the thing is, like, an anime is 20 minutes long per episode, right? Maybe it's half an hour long, whatever. The whole point is because it's episodic, you know where it starts and you know where it ends, and you can kind of plan accordingly. You can say, oh, well, I'll do an anime break of like 20 minutes, whatever. You sit down, watch one episode, and once you're done, you go back to work or you do something else, right? So try to find a way where you can schedule your time so that you can kind of see where your time is going. Otherwise, you'll just end up doom scrolling and clicking on things randomly until you find your dopamine bursts everywhere, right? The next thing is like fruitless hangouts. What that means is like, yeah, you can hang out with your friends, you can do a lot of cool things. Like, there's nothing wrong with socializing, but are you really socializing in a way that is healthy, productive? Are you just there to waste time? Do you know there's a task you have to do, and you're kind of just like, let me make a lazy excuse to get out of here, and like a drink or two won't hurt. Like, look, up to you, right? But like, you have to be responsible about the tasks and responsibilities that you have at hand. All right, and then the last thing is, again, try to avoid doing extra work, right? Like, why would you make content that doesn't get added to your game? Why would you add a feature that just doesn't get added? And this also applies to things in like the real world, right? What if you sign up for a community or a club, or things that on paper that might sound fun and exciting, but again, at the end of the road, they don't provide that much value or benefit. And you're like, I thought it was fun. I've been there for like 3 hours a day, per week, and then I'm realizing it's not really worth the effort. You got to watch out for that, all right? And then don't worry, I saw that P word, all right? So pornography is something that's really bad. It is a silent epidemic. I know that it wastes time, it wastes hours, it wastes your energy, it makes you view people in a very different light. It's not recommended at all. I personally am very against it. And I made this video actually talking about how you can make the habits to actually get rid of that and just move on. But this is something that needs to be talked about. Again, it's a silent epidemic because it's something that affects a lot of people. We are very ashamed to talk about it. I completely understand. But you need to recognize that this right here is like one of the biggest distractions of all time. The quicker you get rid of it, I promise you, the more productive you're going to become. Half of these issues that I just talked about can go down the drain once you get rid of this part right here. Now, number 7. This is interesting. Oh, man. My game sucks. You know what? I should cancel the project. You know what? Maybe you can. And that's fine. You can definitely recognize the game sucks and move on and this and that. However, my friend, listen to me very carefully, all right? You will never get to your dream game unless you make other games, right? I implore you that you need to make sure that you do the entire process of launching, marketing, seeing how it complete all the things you need to do to complete a game, how to upload on Steam, how to upload on other store pages, how to get playtesters, how to playtest, how to add player implementation feedback, how to do everything that you need in order to actually finish a game and then actually like get it online and like make it work, right? And here's the crazy part. You can make 50 billion games, cancel all of them, and then yeah, like make one other game that happens to be like really goated. Sure. But if you notice the keywords that I'm trying to use, it's always going to be an iteration of a game that you're going to make. I'm asking you to complete it, launch it, and do the extra activities that you don't normally get exposure to until you finish the game so that you can level up and become a better developer. Make one game, it's going to suck. Make a second game, it's going to be better. Make a third game, it's going to be even better. The more experience you get, the better. And yes, you can say, oh, but like, wouldn't it be more effective or even smart if I cut my losses? I knew where the fallacy was. I knew that this wasn't going to work out. Yeah, that could definitely work out. And that's definitely a fair argument. What I'm telling you is, why is that failing? Why can't you re-optimize it? Why can't you redesign it? Why can't you see it through? Don't you have enough content where you can kind of like reduce it to the point where you can still launch it? What I want you to see is the big picture, that you shouldn't be iterating the game itself. I mean, part of it is true, but you should be iterating the games that you made. And the reason why I say this is because my very first game is called Dodge King. I then made a mini version of Dodge King called Dodge King Mini. Then I made Dodge King Deluxe. These are 3 separate games, and I'm literally making the same game over and over again, but each time I do it, it's better, faster, more fun, more responsive, better art styles, better game feel. Like there's more things that I'm learning, and it's crazy because all the things that I've been learning of what makes the game good particularly comes from the fact that when I launched it, I got feedback. I learned how to upload these games on Steam. I learned how to do the marketing. I learned how to like pay attention to these things. And these are the critical lessons that you won't find anywhere else. This is the reason why you need to launch the game no matter what. And so just really focus on making the game, launching it, and then working on another game. Then just iterate per game is the most important part of this. Now, one last thing, all right? I know this is kind of like a lengthy video. I'm going to try to cut it off here, but you recognize, okay, I realize it's about decisions. It's about making sure that I'm not distracted, that I have a sense of direction, that I don't rely on motivation, that I have the ability to keep iterating per game, that I'm thinking long term. This is a career I'm always building, that all these things are very important, okay? But there's one key factor in everything that we just talked about that truly makes or breaks every single lesson that we just discussed. And that's you, okay? It doesn't matter how many times I tell you, oh, do this, do that, watch out for that, but you need to recognize that the only person responsible for getting the game out is you. Granted, if you're working on a team, then yeah, it's you and your team. If you're a AAA employee, then maybe this video doesn't even apply to you. That's totally fine. Idea that I'm trying to get to is that most of us are solo devs. Most of us are trying to work as much as possible for our own games. We're trying to launch. We're trying to succeed. And the craziest part is that the greatest asset of the game development process isn't your art. It isn't the programming. It isn't the marketing part. It's you, the developer. You are the reason why you can even make the game in the first place. And so you really got to make sure you have the habits. You got to make sure that you have a clean mindset. You got to make sure that you're ready and optimal to like get ready to pick up work, do all the things that you have to do. You have to know how to reverse engineer your game, know your endpoint, know your goals. Every single thing that we're talking about is about you. It's not about your game. It's about how you can move on to complete your game. And once you have all this established, once you practice these things, suddenly you'll see how fascinating it is to not only make games, but make multiple games, work with other developers, do all these things to actually get your game out there. So, being said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any suggestions, please go ahead and let me know. I hope this helped.